I've ranted for months about how deep the corruption in Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling goes. And tonight, it gets much worse. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Tyler Vance Rants. I am your host, Tyler Vance himself. It is August 11th, 1984. Last week in the World Wrestling Federation, Rowdy Roddy Piper promised to expose the sham victory that Wendy Richter had over the Fabulous Moolah and promised to have the WWF Women's Championship returned to the Fabulous Moolah as well. In the National Wrestling Alliance, NWA television champion Tully Blanchard accepted a 60-minute match challenge from the American Dream Dusty Rhodes, and it was revealed that Barry Windham was in negotiations to join Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. We're going to be tuning into WWF Championship Wrestling first this week, where Vince McMahon and Tony once more greet us on commentary.
Polish pal Ivan Putski is everybody's favorite, Vince.
Don't ever speak for me again, Tony, or we're gonna have some real problems. The very first match of the night sees the Iron Sheik, accompanied by Ayatollah Blasi, take on Jose Luis Rivera in singles competition. Rivera is such a non-issue for the former WWF World Heavyweight Champion that the Iron Sheik has time to not only pose for the crowd, but also get a word in with his manager ringside in between stomping the life out of Jose. Rivera gets thrown to the outside of the ring, and the Iron Sheik is right behind him, who offers Rivera a chair just in case the Puerto Rican is too tired to continue the match. From there, Jose Luis Rivera is able to mount some offense. However, nothing ever really comes of it before he's polished off with a back suplex and then forced to submit with the Iron Sheik's camel clutch. After the match, Jose Luis Rivera is then tossed outside of the ring again for wasting the Iron Sheik's time. Charlie Fulton takes on Rocky Johnson in singles competition next, and once the match gets started, Fulton doesn't really seem to know how to handle Rocky once the man gets going. Rocky Johnson infuriates Charlie Fulton with his speed, but then makes the surprise decision to slow the match down, utilizing arm drag after arm drag before focusing on Fulton's shoulder. Fulton tries to get an upper hand following a rake to the face of Johnson, but Rocky's speed once more comes into play, and it's not long before he secures the win following a sunset flip. Jeff Lang and Special Delivery Jones take on the WWF World Tag Team Champions Adrian, Adonis, and Dick Murdoch in tag team competition next. Jones manages to get one up on the WWF World Tag Team Champions once the non-title match begins, showcasing good experience and leadership to the newcomer Lang. Adonis and Murdoch continue to demonstrate what seems to be an off night for them as Special Delivery Jones continues to outfox the World Tag Team Champions as the match progresses. Everyone has their limits. Jones then seems to forget that he's competing in a tag team match and runs out of steam rather than tag in Lang. So the WWF World Tag Team Champions take advantage of it. During Jones's darkest moments of the match, he does finally tag in Jeff Lang, but this proves to be the Achilles heel and a fatal mistake for his team. Lang is completely dominated and completely overwhelmed before he loses to an elbow drop from Adrian Adonis on the top rope. Vince McMahon's waste of time, the WWF update, comes at us next. I sincerely hope that this week's focus, Andre the Giant, reveals just a little bit more to us about the eighth wonder of the world, rather than the fact that he owns a restaurant in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. According to McMahon, Andre the Giant recently attended a celebrity fitness dinner with none other than Susan Anton as his guest. While not much more is revealed about what went on during that dinner, Vince McMahon does end on a note that I can actually agree with. Everybody loves Andre the Giant. Piper's Pit is up next, and unlike the promised Wendy Richter as the guest, I suppose now that she's the WWF Women's Champion, she's too good to be on this show. Instead, we get B. Brian Blair. Rowdy Roddy Piper starts the interview off by asking Blair what got him into professional wrestling, and Brian reveals that he once had a dream as a child of competing at the Olympics. something that Hot Rod refers to as
Growing up, I always had dreams of going to the Olympics.
Wait a second, wait. When you were a little kid growing up, you had dreams of going to the Olympics. Isn't this just kind of a hokey dream of yours?
the Olympic Games in 1984 are a complete joke to Roddy Piper, who mentions that no communist countries such as Poland, Russia, just to name a few, were allowed to compete, and therefore the Americans had zero competition.
Russia didn't come, Poland didn't come, no communist countries came. Maybe with the American athlete, maybe they're happy that Russia didn't come because that's the only way America can get any gold medals.
In response, B. Brian Blair makes the same damn skirt joke that we've heard over a dozen times from over a dozen different clowns, and this sends Rowdy Roddy Piper into an absolute rage, who takes it to his guest.
I said I didn't see anybody in any skirts up there accepting any medals.
United States is a direct representative of messing up 400 years of Olympics because of goofballs like you. I was there. Piper, you're a jerk.
Hey, at least we learned what the B in B Brian Blair stood for during this segment of Piper's Pit, because Brian is a little big. The main event of WWF Championship Wrestling sees Ron Shaw take on the Polish power, Ivan Putski. Putski engages the crowd by encouraging them to cheer for him while booing Shaw. You're not gonna win matches based on popularity alone, pal. Once the match gets underway, a mysterious man with a shiny jacket and a bow tie heads down to the ring, circles it before heading backstage. And this causes the competitors within the squared circle to stop and stare at him suspiciously, which leads to the match coming to a momentary standstill. Unfortunately for Ron Shaw, Ivan Putski snaps out of his daze upon seeing something shiny, and remembers that he's competing in a wrestling match. Not long after, he hits Shaw with the Polish hammer to get the 1-2-3. Now that WWF Championship Wrestling is at an end, it's time to tune in down south to see the corruption of Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. Bob Caudle greets us on commentary as usual, and the first match is a singles match between Brian Adidas taking on Paul Kelly. Despite the impressive athleticism displayed throughout the entire match, Brian Adidas can't help remind everyone just how lame he really is as he gets the win with an airplane spin. Once the match is over, Bob Caudle catches a word with the Boogie Woogie Maniac Jimmy Valiant. And while I say word, I really should say that Bob Caudle stands by while the Boogie Woogie Maniac shouts incoherently like a lunatic while showing off his poorly taped fist. Jimmy has a heavy heart lately due to the war going on for so long with Paul Jones. It's only going on for so long because you won't get in the ring with Assassin Number 1, you freak. The only way to win a war is to fight it, not shout from the sidelines on the home front. Despite Assassin Number 1 never having lost a taped fist match, Jimmy Valiant vows to beat the Assassin before moving on to finally take out Paul Jones so that this war can come to an end. You must really be deranged if you think that's going to be the outcome. Speaking of Assassin Number 1, he's taking on Bret Hart in singles competition while accompanied to the ring by his manager Paul Jones and tag team partner Assassin Number 3. Jones himself joins Bob Caudle on commentary for this match as it gets underway, and while he agrees with me that Bret Hart is normally impressive in an athletic sense, he does not hold a candle to how Assassin Number 1 is currently performing, considering everybody knows that Jimmy Valiant is watching and Assassin Number 1 has a point to prove. As if on cue, Assassin Number 1's taped fist knocks Hart out cold on his feet before he secures the win. David Crockett is backstage with Bob Caudle, and the Snake says that he has some good news. So we are then joining Jim Crockett Jr., David's brother, who has Barry Windham with him. Jimbo announces that he and Windham have finalized the details and announces that Barry Windham is officially, as of this moment, Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling's newest member. That's great news!
We have signed Barry Windham to the most lucrative contract ever signed by a professional athlete.
Before also handing Windham the keys to a Z28 convertible.
We would like to present you these keys to a custom Z28 convertible.
You're kidding me, right? You have to be joking. I can't believe what we're hearing and seeing. What I'm led to believe is that Barry Windham was this close to signing with another promotion, so what does Jim Crockett do? He opens his pocketbook. Whatever you want, Barry, please don't go to the WWF. I've already lost Kamala. I've already lost the fabulous Freebirds. I can't afford to lose you too. I'll even pay you more than I pay the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. If you want a car, here are the keys to a Z28. If you want my house, I've got a wife too, you can have her. I just can't afford to lose you. Please, Barry, I'm begging you. While that was more emotion than Jim Crockett Jr. could ever muster if he spent a week preparing for it, this is outright corruption. That's all that this is. I'm not Ric Flair's biggest fan, you know that, but don't you think as the top dog in the entire NWA, he should be having the most lucrative contract available? I'm furious! I'm so angry, it's best at this point if we just move on to the next match, where Gary Royal takes on the Boogie Woogie Maniac, Jimmy Valiant. Royal stands absolutely no chance against Valiant, whose heavy heart is fueled into the sleeper that he employs on Gary Royal to secure the win. Backstage once more, Bob Caudle has Rufus R. Freight Train Jones standing by for an interview, and Jones is still wearing a crown for some reason, something that he started to do on last week's episode. Well, at least finally now we know why, because apparently Jones is going around calling himself the king of professional wrestling.
Brother, you got that right. I am the king of wrestling.
What kind of Kool-Aid is being served down there in Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling? The biggest event of 1984 is just a couple of months away. In November of 1984, Starrcade will be hosted for a second year in a row. Rufus is beyond excited for the upcoming Starrcade event, and turns his mind onto more pressing matters, saying that if his cellmate in the loony bin, Jimmy Valiant, cannot beat Assassin number 1 in their upcoming Take Fist match, then he will take over for his friend, not only taking out Assassin number 1, but then also going after Paul Jones. Rufus then makes his way down to the ring so that the king of professional wrestling, I'm not calling him that, can team up with Pistol Pez Whatley and take on the NWA World Tag Team Champions, Don Kernodle and Ivan Koloff, who along with Ivan Koloff's nephew Nikita Koloff currently comprise the NWA 6-man Tag Team Champions. However, just like the WWF World Tag Team Champions before them, Ivan Koloff and Don Kernodle seem to be having an off night. Thankfully, the match is non-title, as Whatley gets off to a lightning-fast start and fires on all cylinders, getting 2 near falls on Kernodle. Even when Koloff is tagged in, Rufus and Pez keep their tags frequent and their energy high, ensuring that the NWA World Tag Team Champions remain isolated from one another. All 4 men end up in the ring, and while the referee is ushering Rufus R. Freight Train Jones back to his corner, the NWA World Tag Team Champions isolate and double team the Pistol, leading to their victory. Once again backstage, Bob Caudle this time has NWA Television Champion Tully Blanchard, as well as the rightful NWA United States Heavyweight Champion Chief Wahoo McDaniel standing by for an interview. Caudle starts things off by asking Blanchard whether or not he'll ever defend his television championship on TV again.
Are you ever going to defend that belt again on TV?
And I'm just going to stop the interview here for just a second. Bob, buddy, I know you're getting up there in age and you may have a tendency to forget important details, but I'm going to reiterate exactly what Tully Blanchard said to you as well as to an international audience on television just last week. When someone of quality shows up to challenge him, he'll defend the NWA Television Championship. Also, if you forgot, Bob, Tully Blanchard accepted the challenge from the American Dream Dusty Rhodes, so maybe just calm down a little, okay? Chief McDaniel then pipes in and says that he and Tully Blanchard are set to become one of, if not the greatest tag team in the entire world, before then turning his attention to NWA World Heavyweight Champion, the Nature Boy Ric Flair. Chief Wahoo McDaniel is rightfully the #1 contender for Flair's championship due to the fact that he is rightfully the NWA United States Heavyweight Champion. And once Flair stops hiding out in the woods, you'll understand that reference in a second, Chief Wahoo McDaniel will not only be challenging Flair for the championship, but taking it from him as well. Paul Jones and the Assassins are Bob Caudle's next guests. And Assassin number 1 says that there's something wrong with his hand.
There's nothing wrong with this hand right here except one thing. It's gonna be fed Jimmy Valiant's face. It's gonna be fed Jimmy Valiant's body.
Ric Flair is such a coward and so scared of Chief Wahoo McDaniel that he's run off to hide in the woods while also searching for one of his old rivals and occasional ally in Blackjack Mulligan. Mulligan, Dusty Rhodes for some reason, and some other cowboys were hunting in the woods before they called it a night when Ric Flair stumbled across them. Seemingly having searched for them for a couple of weeks now, considering we haven't seen him on television for at least 2, Flair has interrupted song time, and that has gotten him off to the wrong footing once this meeting begins, according to Blackjack Mulligan himself.
Just a minute, Rick, this is my people here, it's my family here with me. You're imposing on our hog hunting time.
Flair is not one to take no for an answer, however, and so he continues to plead his case. He has trudged for weeks on end through the backwoods of the United States in search of Blackjack Mulligan and his troop of cowboys for help against Chief Wahoo McDaniel. Smartly, Blackjack Mulligan doesn't immediately agree to Flair's plea of help, instead saying that he needs to mull the idea over, but then does offer to have Flair join him and his boys down there by the campfire.
Have a beer, Rick. Sit down. I sat with my family for a while here. Hey, watch that snake! Wow!
Damn it, Dusty! Trigger discipline! The Renegade, accompanied by his loser brother Mark Youngblood, takes on Jeff Sword next. A dropkick gets things going for the Renegade, and Sword is barely able to recover from there. Following this, a knife-edged chop sends Jeff Sword down, but he is wise enough to get his foot on the rope, which allows the referee to stop the count. Not that it matters, considering moments later the Renegade gets a falling chop on Jeff Sword's chest to get the win. Bob Caudle catches Don Kernodle, Ivan Koloff, and Nikita Koloff for an interview next. Taking aim at the recent signing of Barry Windham, Don Kernodle says that if Windham can find himself a tag team partner, then he has a free shot at the NWA World Tag Team Championships, and suggests that maybe Starrcade 84 might just be the venue for that match. Dusty Rhodes, who really was living the American dream when he fired off his lever-action rifle all willy-nilly just a few moments ago, is Bob Caudle's next guest. Dusty claims that he knew that Chief Wahoo McDaniel was never any good before joining Bob Caudle on commentary for a tag team match between the Chief and Tully Blanchard, taking on Sam Houston and Vinnie Valentino.
I was the first one that dealt my hand about Wahoo McDaniel. He's a one-eyed jack in this town, and I seen the other side of his face.
Shut the hell up, Dusty. You're a two-faced liar. Oh, Lord, Ric Flair, he's my best friend, yes, sir. But when we face off against each other, no, sir, he is no longer any good, Daddy. Chief Wahoo McDaniels. He's my best friend, baby. Tight as can be, but oh Lord, he's no longer any good. I knew it all along. I know. My Dusty Rhodes impersonation is not any good, considering that you can actually understand what I'm trying to say. Considering that Tully Blanchard recently beat Sam Houston to defend his NWA Television Championship, my confidence in Sammy Boy coming out on top is not very high, especially when you add Chief Wahoo McDaniel to the mix.
Now then, why is he doing this? It's all, it's understood now that greed and money has taken over the Indians' teepee, baby.
No, it's racist comments like that that have invaded Chief Wahoo McDaniel's mind. Everything that comes out of your mouth, Dusty, is crap. Unsurprisingly, a quick catapult suplex from Blanchard on Houston puts him and Vinnie Valentino into the losers column as Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling comes to an end. Never in my entire time doing this show have the events that unfolded before me infuriated me so much. Where do I begin? In the WWF World Tag Team Champions Adrian, Adonis, and Dick Murdoch seemed to have an off night, but still managed to come out on top in their match against Special Delivery Jones and Jeff Lang, something that the NWA World Tag Team Champions Don Kernodle and Ivan Koloff seemed to have in common. B. Brian Blair made Rowdy Roddy Piper incredibly angry by reiterating the same old skirt joke that we've heard a dozen and so times now, while a mysterious man in a shiny jacket and a bow tie came down and circled the ring during a match between the Polish Power Ivan Putski and Ron Shaw. Meanwhile, in the National Wrestling Alliance, the American Dream Dusty Rhodes proved that you do not need to be intelligent to have the ability to speak. The Nature Boy Ric Flair wandered the woods until he came across Blackjack Mulligan and tried to enlist his aid with the Chief Wahoo McDaniel issue. And Blackjack Mulligan's son, Barry Windham, signed the most lucrative contract in the history of Jim Crockett Promotions by Jim Crockett Jr. himself. This is not the first time that Jim Crockett Jr. has done something like this. Back on February 18th, which was the 7th episode of my series, something I'll link down for you to view yourself, Jim Crockett Jr. used his money and his wealth and his position of power within the NWA to get someone to do his bidding. Ricky Steamboat had retired. He'd opened his own personal business with his gym, and most importantly, he was happy. But in walks Jim Crockett Jr., who says, "Ricky Steamboat, please come back to the NWA, specifically Jim Crockett Promotions and Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. I will give you an automatic shot at the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, as well as pay you $10,000 simply for competing." Enter Barry Windham, who is one of the, if not the hottest free agents in the world of professional wrestling at this particular moment in time. And he's gonna do what's best for him financially. And you know who happens to have unending wealth and opportunities for young rising stars? Vince McMahon in the WWF. But oh no, we can't have that, can we? So here's a contract for millions of dollars, more money than I currently pay the NWA World Heavyweight Champion Ric Flair, and by the way, here's a car while we're at it too. Do you think the wrestlers, now knowing that they are not nearly paid as much as Barry Windham is, are going to be taking this issue lightly? If you said yes, then you are an outright fool. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Tyler Vance Rants. You can sign a very lucrative deal with yourself by hitting the like button and the bell, as well as subscribing so you never miss when a new episode is released. There are also some lucrative bonuses there for you too by following me on social media, where there's plenty of fun wrestling stuff for you to check out. As well, I would appreciate if you shared the video with your family and friends. That's it for me for this week. I'll see you next week. So long for now. Rivera gets thrown outside of the ring, and blah blah blah. Rufus and Pez continue their frequent tags in an effort to keep the WWF, this is the NWA, and hopefully share the video.